business this morning then. The Times has the advice given by the Treasury against increasing wages for fears of a 1970s-style inflationary spiral.
The Eye leads on the pressure on the Prime Minister to jumpstart the economy.
The Mail has Prince William's rift with his brother.
And the Express covers the ongoing holiday crisis in airports, urging airline workers to work more overtime to get flights off the ground.
Let's go through the papers in a bit more detail there with the journalist Ella Whelan and the broadcaster Pete Price. Good morning,
Good
both.
morning.
Morning.
You can buzz off, Pete.
Thanks. Oh, don't. You're not going to believe this. So, the first story. Thousands of stolen bees have found their way back. They were stolen from a Cornish country estate, and they've actually found their way home. Now, the reason I wanted to do this story was, are you ready for this picture? Yesterday morning, I woke up to this. And this is my bedroom, and I was absolutely mortified.
We're trying to find the photograph there.
Oh,
That was yesterday morning.
And if you're listening on the radio, you'll have to describe it, Pete.
It is a swarm
outside
of
your
bees,
window.
but I want to point out that
Thousands.
I never stole them from this country estate.
What made them come to your bedroom?
I don't know. I was mortified.
I mean, had you thrown a sandwich out of the window or
Waking up
something?
to that, and then a 4-hour delay getting down here today. I had a day and a half. That
did.
was unbelievable. I just heard this noise. Look at it. I'm just flabbergasted.
Are they still there?
Social media went crazy. I love honey with my coffee, but that's ridiculous.
There's a queen in the middle of that.
There's a couple of queens in the middle of that.
Honestly,
Isn't
that's
it?
That's
Unreal.
scary.
Yeah, and that's why the story. But isn't it interesting that the bees actually go back home? They've gone to Cornwall. So buzz off back to Cornwall,
So
please.
they were stolen, and they've
And they've gone
found their
back,
way
yeah.
like homing pigeons. They've all gone
yeah,
back.
Isn't it great? Five hives were taken between Saturday evening and Sunday evening, and they've gone home
That's
themselves.
amazing.
It is. It's fascinating. And they are wonderful creatures.
Of course, they're
You know,
terribly
we need
important.
not in that mass, but
Well, not round your bedroom window, no.
everyone's shouting, "Are you all right? What do you think?"
No.
Well, I'm very glad you didn't have your window open because of the hot
I had
weather.
all the windows open, not that window, but when I heard the noise, and then went out in my pajamas to take a photograph of
Yeah.
that.
Gosh,
It was terrible.
terrifying.
The image we can do without, Pete. To the Times, Ella, looking at thought control.
Yeah, well, we already had, in the last round, Pete covered the story about the NHS blood donation unit asking men if they were pregnant. There's sort of a similar story in the Times, which is that the Advance HE, which is a charity involved in universities, Athena Swan Charter, which is a kind of charter about gender equality that universities sign up to, and it's part of a sort of training that academics and staff have to go through. They have to sort of go, do diversity, inclusion, all this kind of stuff. And part of this training they had to sign up to from Advance HE said that they had to sign up to a promise requiring universities to foster a collective understanding on the belief that gender can be chosen. Now, that's, if you've not been under a rock, you might understand that that is a relatively controversial thing to bring up and try and ask academics to sign up to commit to, because there is a debate about sex versus gender. There is a debate about some particular feminists taking umbrage at the fact that trans activists are wanting to say that gender is the main thing and sex doesn't exist. And so asking academics to not, pay respect to trans people or do any of the kind of normal things that you would expect under general equality and diversity legislation or restrictions, but to commit to the idea that gender can be chosen is a total infringement on academic freedom. It means that you couldn't, for example, write a paper or do a dissertation or do some research into stuff around biological sex. And so, as the Times reports, there are some universities have signed up to it, but there is a number of academics who have signed a letter saying that they won't sign up to it. But I think it's just a sign of the times that we were talking about sort of common sense versus bureaucracy. And I think a lot of this stuff in relation to gender identity ends up with trying to get people to sign up to things that actually in practice doesn't work or goes against any kind of sense of open debate.
Over 40 years of doing a late night phone-in, I've helped so many people enormously fight their sexuality, fight their gender, fight all these problems. I now do not do a phone-in anymore because of exactly what you've talked about. I think it's completely out of control and ridiculously explosive, and you've got to think of every word that comes out of your mouth.
Yeah, it's just ordinary, sensible discussion.
We've been through it. We've been through this ish before.
Yeah.
Maybe not on gender particularly, but I remember back in the 80s and 90s talking about political correctness. That's why that phrase is in our vocabulary so much now. And we were all talking about how the world's gone politically correct mad, and we came through it, didn't we?
We did, but I don't know. I don't see a way back on this one. I mean, it's like the old TV shows, the comedy ones. I won't even name them, and saying, you know, they're disgraceful. They might be disgraceful, but they're part of our history.
Yes.
So we should keep them as they are to remind us of what we do wrong.
Yes.
I interviewed the Chief Constable of Merseyside Police, who was a dear friend of mine the other day, and she put me in my place when I said manpower.
Did she?
Yeah.
What did she say you should say instead?
Anything but manpower. I'm a woman, you know, it's not manpower. She really corrected me. I love Serena, she knows I do. But I left it in the interview because I thought, you know.
But we are mankind.
Yes.
Are we anymore?
Well, maybe not.
Well, you're a woman, aren't you?
Yeah, but I'm not of womankind, I'm of mankind.
Yeah, but
I see that as the species.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah.
Ella's smirking.
No, it's just that it's, you know, the idea that we have to trip up over these things or check ourselves is really depressing, because, you know, if you are saying manpower to a woman, unless you're sort of a real dinosaur, you're obviously not meaning I mean man, not woman. You're not trying to assert. Most people are.
Yeah.
I think, and you know, particularly in relation to this thing that the Times is reporting on. I mean, the question of whether gender can be chosen and whether sex is a reality is very important for things like if we give in to that idea that sex just doesn't matter, then you have problems when it comes to being specific about healthcare, when it comes to being specific about crime or things like that. I mean, generally, talking about common sense, most of us in society understand that people are divided up between men and women, and that there are variations in between, and you can
surely the point is that it is debatable. What I'm saying is that you can debate it.
Yes.
You can talk about it.
Yeah.
And what they're trying to do is get you to sign up to something which means it's no
not
longer
debatable.
debatable.
Freedom of speech.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And that's one thing we have in this country.
What's happened to going back to the USSR, Pete?
Well, with Paul McCartney, and happy birthday, he's 80.
Is it today?
Yeah, I'm sure it's today.
It's
today.
I think you're
He's at
right.
Glastonbury. He's not going to be
believe he's 80.
He's not good. He's 80 years old.
God.
He's not going to be singing the song. His stepmother, Ange McCartney, and his sister, Ruth, come on my show quite regularly, which is interesting.
They're a lovely family, actually, aren't they?
They are a nice
Yeah.
family.
80s today. Well done,
80
you.
today.
Amazing.
What's great about it is he says he's not going to do the song anymore, and now the USSR are not letting him in. Wow, whoopee, good on him. But he's, you know, he's still singing his little heart out, live and let die. So I'm delighted. And with the Eurovision competition, they're thinking that England might be the place to have it now because they can't have it in Ukraine.
But not necessarily London.
But not necessarily.
That's what they're saying.
Oh, we should have Anfield.
Yeah,
We've had.
absolutely.
Yes, why not? That'd be great.
Yeah, get them up north, you know, get them up north.
Yeah.
And we can all work longer hours. I'm going to jump in on this. Work longer hours to ease chaos in airport. Please, can somebody tell me what's wrong with working longer hours and getting overtime? I get so angry at this. We are where we are today because we work hard.
Yeah.
No other reason.
People never see that, though, do they? People
Oh.
think it's all just a. I mean, not with us particularly, but for anyone who's sort of doing quite well, they just think you've got it on a plate.
Oh yeah.
That's what people do think.
Yeah, but it's great. Everyone used to say, have you got any overtime?
Yeah.
They don't say it now anymore. You know. I do love coming on this together. So many people would love to come on this programme to do what I do. Get it out your system.
Yeah. Quite right.
Absolutely.
Quite right too. The PM probably needs to get a few things out of his system.
Well, talking about getting things out of your system, it is interesting and unfortunate that both by-elections are going to fall on the same day. For the Conservative Party hanging in the balance in Wakefield and in Tiverton and Honiton, you know, two by-elections that have been called for different reasons, but definitely still reasons that are not, let's put it, certainly unsavoury. One in relation to an MP who's been convicted of a crime, and another one in relation to the kind of tractor porn fiasco. And the interesting thing that if people haven't been following the tractor support, just don't even bother. It's such a crazy story. And in the Guardian it reports that saying that this is a true test of how toxic the Prime Minister is on the ground.
Is it really? Because we've always said, I mean, historically, politically, by-elections are not a key indicator of national pictures. No.
But the interesting thing about particularly Tiverton and Honiton by-election is that the Conservatives have always had a large majority there. They've outflanked the Lib Dems for a very long time, and in 2019 they had an over 24,000 majority. So if you lose that does say something pretty substantial. And the Guardian's reporting that actually even within Tory party HQ, the narrative is it's lost, let's just damage control. And you could say something about complacency in politics. They should be out there trying to argue their position, although that's very hard. Anytime you hear a Tory MP now coming on to try to defend Boris, it just sounds hollow at best. It just is. I don't think it really washes with people. But in relation to Wakefield, it's a much tighter margin. The Labour Party is much more likely to be able to take them over. But yes, you're right. By-elections only tell you so much, but I think in a kind of context in which the Tory party feels like it's just slowly imploding in on itself, this is bad news.
Is it next Thursday?
Yes.
Right.
Don't you also think that social media has changed politics?
Oh yes, very much so.
Completely and utterly.
Yeah, no, it has. Well, look, because we're talking about the by-election, what we do have to do is run you through the candidates. So 15 candidates standing in Wakefield. Sir Archibald Stanton Earl-Eaton from the official Monster Raving Loony Party, Nadeem Ahmed for the Conservatives, Akef Akbar, Independent, Paul Bickerdike, Christian People's Alliance, Mick Dodgson, Freedom Alliance, Jada Franson, Independent, Jordan Gaskell, UK Independence Party, David Hurdson, the Yorkshire Party.
Shall I take over and give you a break? Therese Hurst from the English Democrats, Christopher Jones, Northern Independence Party, Simon Lightwood for Labour, Jamie Needle from the Lib Dems, Ash Routh of the Green Party, Ashley Simon from Britain First, and Chris Walsh from Reform UK.
8 candidates standing in Tiverton and Honiton, Jordan Donoghue Morgan for the Heritage Party, Andy Fone for Reform UK, Richard Ford, Lib Dems, Helen Herford, Conservatives.
Liz Pole for Labour, Frankie Ruffalo for Britain Movement, Ben Walker for UKIP, and Jill Westcott for the Green Party.
Right, we've got to leave it there, you two.
Great piece of broadcasting.
Oh, was it?
Did it properly. Good on you.
It's like the old football scores, isn't it?
Yeah, you end up with one at the end that you couldn't quite account for. Anyway, no, that worked.